Please rise for the honorable school dedications, Spencer Duchesne, Mark Andrews, and Sarah Perkins. Mock trial for Morgan County, State of Utah is now in session. The Honorable Judge Spencer Duchesne presiding.
Thank you. Please be seated. Before we begin, does either team have any motions that they'd like us to hear at this time?
No, Your Honor.
Your Honors, we'd just like to ask permission to move freely about the wall.
Granted. Both teams move as you'd like, whatever makes you comfortable.
And then would you like counsel to ask to approach a witness?
Yes, please.
All right, okay, thank you.
Plaintiff side, would you like to introduce your team?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Your Honor. Opposing counsel. My name is Emily Cannon. I will be giving the open, direct of Jesse Hall, direct of Dakota Gardner, and cross of Hayden Thomas.
Hello, Your Honors. My name is Maxwell Warren. I will be giving the closing, the direct of Nikki Lopez, the crossing of Addison Wheeler, and the crossing of River Forest.
Good afternoon, Your Honors. I'm Jesse Hall, being played by James Benson.
Good morning, Your Honors. My name is Nicole Allen, and I will be portraying the role of Dakota Gardner. Good afternoon, Your Honors. I am an opposing counsel. I am Calvin Price, and I will be portraying the part of Nikki Lopez.
Thank you. Defense?
Good morning, Your Honors. My name is Jefferson Penrod. I will be delivering the opening statement and the direct examination of Addison Wheeler with co-counsel.
Good evening, Your Honors. Opposing counsel, I am Luke Banner, and I will be delivering the closing argument and cross-examining Jesse Hall.
My name is Greg McMullen, and I will be directing River Forest and crossing Dakota Gardner.
My name is Caleb Leach, and I will be directing Hayden Thomas and crossing Nikki Lopez.
Afternoon, Your Honors. I am Hayden Thomas, being played by Ryan Giger.
Good afternoon, Your Honors. I'm from Pascal, and I will be portraying River Forest.
Good afternoon. I'm Jackson Wilson, and I'll be portraying Dr. Addison Wheeler.
Thank you. Plaintiff's counsel, would you care to give an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor. We are here today, Your Honors, because of an accident. This accident, like all others, is not the cause of one person. But like all other accidents, Your Honor, there is one person who, without them, this accident could not have happened. One person whose negligence is catastrophic and their uncooperativeness with the most simple rules, devastating. It is more than oversight or carelessness. It is more than negligence. This is gross negligence, Your Honor. Your Honors, there are many laws or rules that govern our land, many political, many social, many mental or moral. But the simplest, Your Honor, are the ones with the most devastating consequences when ignored. We have three witnesses today. Jesse Hall, who will be telling us about their son, Justin Hall, about their decision not to make Justin wear their ID necklace and not to tell his friends about his diabetes. How Justin has never before broken rules and never will. Dakota Gardner, Justin's best friend, will tell us about the hike where Forrest disregarded the simple rules that should have kept the kids safe. But the simplest rules were broken, resulting in the terrible paralyzation of Justin Hall. And Nikki Lopez will tell us about Justin's visit to the hospital, how Forrest's incompetence resulted in Justin's further injury. On the defense, Addison Wheeler will probably say how irresponsible it was not to have Justin wearing his ID necklace. And the defense might use our saying against us, saying that not wearing the ID necklace was a simple rule broken with devastating consequences. But whatever we did, Your Honors, it pales before what the camp, and specifically River Forest, did. Hayden Thomas, the camp director, will probably say how the camp is innocent, how they did nothing wrong, and how it's just a terribly tragic accident what happened to Justin. But the camp broke 3 separate regulations. Regulations the camp had a contract to follow, had parents expecting them to follow. River Forest will probably talk about how they are a qualified camp leader, how the trip was okay because of so-and-so reasons, how so sorry they are about Justin's paralyzation, how they wouldn't have taken Justin on the hike if they'd known about Justin's diabetes, but they will testify they took 9 other kids, including one with asthma. Your Honor, Justin was diagnosed with diabetes early last year. Before this situation, Justin was headed to USST, Utah School of Science and Technology. And to prepare for that, he wanted to go to Forensic Tech Camp. His father allowed it because of the camp's NCA accreditations, which you will see he's not only familiar with, but he trusts these NCA standards. Which is exactly, he trusts these simple rules that have devastating consequences when ignored, which is exactly what River Forest did. This is gross negligence, Your Honor. Gross negligence is when a person's behavior is not only grossly irresponsible, but falling short of the duty of care. Careless, reckless, unreasonable, and with willful conduct. It is behavior that shocks the conscience. We will show you, Your Honors, that River Forest has gross negligence. We will show you, Your Honors, that people like Forest, people who violate simple rules, need to pay for what they have done. Please, Your Honor, listen to the truth. There are many laws or rules that govern our land. The simplest were the ones with the most devastating consequences when ignored. Do you not see how violent they are? How willing to blame someone who will not be able to move again without your help? The defense acts sorry, and maybe they are. They were grossly irresponsible and negligent. That cannot be erased by pretty bows or flattering words. It can never be erased. Why isn't Justin here? Because he's a quadriplegic. He cannot move his legs or arms. He cannot do anything without help. He won't be able to lead a normal life. Justin's life now depends on money. It's not for greed, it's not for pride or satisfaction. It's to keep Justin alive. Jesse's only child will be paralyzed for at least years, and without the proper care, life. Jesse only wants what's best for his son, wouldn't you? Jesse can't pay this by himself. He cannot unlock his son from the clutches of paralyzation himself. He needs your help, the help only you can give him. Please listen, Your Honor. You are the only ones who can help Justin come even close to the person he used to be. We will show you, Your Honors, that Forensic Tech was grossly negligent. Thank you, Your Honors.
Thank you. Defense, would you care to give your opening statement this time, or would you like to give your opening statement before you present your case in chief?
Your Honor, the defense would like to defer the opening statement until after the prosecution rests.
Okay, thank you. Plaintiff, you may call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The plaintiff calls Jesse Hoskins.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this most trial?
Court.
I'm Jesse Hall.
Very, very quickly, what's your family and career life?
Well, I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Sales for Heaven on Earth Resorts. However, that implied a strain on my family, and my wife, Taylor, divorced me in 2013 and took our son, Justin, with her until she remarried in 2017, and Justin asked to come live with me.
What was life like with your son again?
Well, it was a bit of a readjustment. You know, it's been 4 years since he lived with me full-time. But he's very mature and responsible, top in his sophomore class and straight A's.
Right, will you just tell the judge what Justin wanted to do for a career?
Yeah. Justin wanted to become a forensic analyst. And he hoped to gain the education required for this through USST, Utah School of Science and Technology. He got his acceptance letter in early March of 2017.
Was there anything he did or wanted to do to prepare him for USST?
Yeah, they gave us a list of camps. Among them was Forensic Tech Science camps, and I felt Justin would be safe going there, seeing as it had NCA accreditation.
What's NCA?
The NCA is the National Camp Association. Basically what it does is it assures customers and consumers that the camp in question follows government and industry safety standards.
Awesome. Your Honor, may I approach the witness with Exhibit 1?
You may.
Thank you. Are you familiar with this?
I am. This is the mandatory standards for accreditation.
Your Honor, I would like to enter Exhibit 1 into evidence.
Have you shown it to opposing counsel?
It is Exhibit 1, the National Camp Association standards.
Any objections? Defense?
Your Honor, we believe that there's not been enough foundation laid as to how he's familiar with these standards.
I agree. You need to lay more foundation, please.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank
How
you,
are
Your
you
Honor.
familiar with these standards?
Well, a lot of the camps that I work with, they strive very hard to get those NCA accreditation standards.
So you would say you know these very well.
Yes, I would.
Your Honor, may I now enter Exhibit 1 into evidence?
Defense, objections?
No, Your Honor.
It's so entered.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, moving on. Did anything happen before Justin went to the camp?
Yeah, he started having these weird vision problems. He was sweating and tired and hungry, and we took him to the doctors, and they told us that he had type 1 diabetes.
How did you and Justin react to that diagnosis?
Well, Justin was very mature and responsible about it. He went about making all the meals, and he was throwing away anything that could worsen the situation. He was told that he should check his blood and take his insulin regularly, and that's what he did.
What were your methods of informing people about the condition?
Well, I got him this name tag thing. Basically, it said that he had diabetes. However, he was worried that his friends would treat him differently because of it. That I know, he did tell the school nurse, but no one else.
All right, will you tell me about the day that Justin left for camp?
Yeah, let's see. I was getting up early to go to my non-stop flight to Greece for work. And I remembered that we hadn't told the camp about Justin's diabetes. We'd already filled out the form and stuff beforehand, before we knew. So I got him up, and Justin said he'd take care of it. He's never given me reason to doubt him before.
When did you hear from him next?
It was later that day, 9. He texted me and said that he was on his way to the camp with Dakota Gardner, his good friend, and I told him that I would try and call him every day at 7 his time.
What did you talk about in that first call?
Well, that first call, I believe it was the next day, Monday, and he said that he hadn't gotten to tell the camp yet about his diabetes. And he said that the camp was fun,
Did you try to tell the camp yourself?
I did, just in case Justin forgot or for some other unknown reason couldn't get to it.
To your knowledge, did Justin stick to his promise?
Tuesday and Wednesday, I forgot to ask. However, Justin's never given me reason to doubt him before, and I was in Greece. I was almost on the other side of the world. Most I could do was call him or text him. And I tried to tell the camp, but the voice thing was full.
Objection, Your Honor, non-responsive. She asked specifically, to his knowledge, if Justin had told the camp, and he kind of just danced around the question, said that he tried to contact them instead, not specifically answering what she asked.
Counsel, response?
I believe that he was done with his response, Your Honor.
I agree, overruled.
So, when did you hear from him next?
Well, the plan was we were going to talk next Thursday, but when he didn't call and I called him and just went straight to voicemail, I assumed that he was just late to class or something.
So, do you actually know what happened?
I was informed by Hayden Thomas that he had fallen off of a steep hillside and had sustained critical injuries.
Did you stay in Greece?
No, of course not. Flew out here as soon as I could. He's my son.
So, what's his current situation?
Critical. He's, he can barely move his arms. He's paralyzed. He has these terrible headaches and, memory issues.
So, in your opinion, if the camp had followed the NCA standards, do you think Justin would be okay?
Yeah, he'd be fine. He'd be on his way to USST as we speak.
So, according to the story you've heard, did the camp violate any NCA standards?
Yes, I believe they did.
And how has, just last question, how has Justin's situation affected you?
The kid's my son, and he's paralyzed. If it wasn't bad enough that he's paralyzed, how is he going to achieve his dream of being a forensic analyst? The kid can barely move his arms, let alone his legs. And on top of that, I had to pay his medical bills.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Thank you. Defense, cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. So Justin was a type 1 diabetic, correct?
Yeah, he was.
And this caused Justin to experience many symptoms, right?
I wouldn't know. I don't know a whole lot about diabetes.
And those symptoms included blurry vision, needing to frequently use the restroom, and constantly being tired and hungry, right?
Well, from what I was told by the doctor, yeah.
Okay, so when was Justin diagnosed with type 1 diabetes?
Well, I believe it was, let's see. I believe it was about 2, maybe 2.5 months before he went to the camp.
Okay, and this date was after Justin had sent in his application to Forensic Tech then?
This was.
Okay. And you didn't realize that Forensic Tech didn't know about the diabetes until June 25th, or 2 months after he was diagnosed, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you asked Justin to tell Forensic Tech about it at 4:15 a.m. that morning, the morning of June 25th?
Well, I believe so. But however, the voicemail, the inbox thing, whatever it's called, it was full, so.
I was asking if you asked Justin to tell him on the day he was leaving for the camp.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear right.
You're good. But Justin had just woken up when you asked him to tell the camp, right?
Well, I woke him up.
So he had just woken up then?
Close enough, I guess.
And you did not attempt to contact the camp that day?
No, not that day, but the next I did.
Okay. And that attempt was unsuccessful, right?
It was unsuccessful because the voice thing was full.
So when you contacted Justin on Monday, you asked if Justin had told the camp about his diabetes, right?
Sorry, what?
Sorry, when you contacted Justin on Monday, you asked if he had told the camp about his diabetes, right?
I did, and he said he hadn't gotten to it yet.
Okay, and when you called Justin on Tuesday and Wednesday, neither of you mentioned if Justin had reported his diabetes to the camp, right?
No, I was at Greece. I had like a dozen other things on my mind. I couldn't really.
So you weren't able to, So you were never able to confirm then if the camp knew at all whether or not Justin had diabetes?
I was, and I did. I called the day before, Monday.
But were you able to confirm that they knew about it?
No, I couldn't because they never called me back.
Okay. Okay, so did you receive instructions on how to help treat Justin's blood sugar?
Yes, the doctor told me that he should take his insulin and check his blood, I believe.
Okay, were you told that during exercise Justin needed to consistently check his blood sugar level?
Sorry, what?
Were you and Justin told that during exercise he needed to consistently check his blood sugar level?
Yeah, I was.
All right. And were you also told that he should always have snacks available in case his blood sugar got low?
Yeah, I was. And for the
Alright.
most part, I believe he did.
Okay, so Justin's symptoms from his diabetes can show up whenever his blood sugar level is off, right?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
But once again, I don't know a whole lot about diabetes.
But you were there to receive instruction about it, right?
Yeah, I was.
Okay. And it's important for Justin to maintain his blood sugar level, right?
It is,
Okay.
I think.
So you gave Justin a medical ID necklace, right?
I did, but he rarely wore it. He was worried that his...
Thank you. And Dr. Wheeler told Justin to tell his close friends about his diabetes, right?
Well, I tried to get him to, but...
But did Dr. Wheeler ask him to tell his friends about his diabetes?
I believe they did, yeah.
Okay. And he was told to do this so his friends could help him recognize the symptoms of low blood sugar, right?
Sorry, what?
He was told to tell his friends so they could help him recognize symptoms of low blood sugar, right?
Yes.
Okay. But to your knowledge, Justin never wore his medical ID necklace or rarely wore it, right?
Rarely wore it,
Okay.
despite my efforts.
And to your knowledge, he also never told his friends about his diabetes, did he?
No, but he did tell the school nurse.
Okay, but not his friends?
Not his friends, no.
And he didn't do either of those things, even though both you and Dr. Wheeler encouraged him to do so?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Counsel, response?
Your Honor, I'm just simply saying that even though he was told to do this, he went against those instructions.
But how is it relevant?
Just talking about how his diabetes he could have, or it's a possibility that he did not follow his instructions and told the camp about diabetes.
I'm going to overrule the objection.
All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Your Honor, at this time I would like to approach the witness with what has been marked as Exhibit 2, the camp acceptance form and liability waiver.
Go ahead.
I'd like to record the fact that I'm showing the opposing counsel this. All right. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, that is my signature.
Okay. And can you tell me what it is?
Yes, that's the liability waiver.
Okay. This is a fair and accurate representation of that document?
I think so, yeah.
All right. Your Honor, this time defense moves to admit Exhibit 2 into evidence.
Objections?
No, Your Honor.
It's admitted.
Thank you. Okay, so can you read this last arrow right here?
I do. Questions, contact Adam Hamrick, adamhamrick@forensitech.com.
All right. Thank you. Now can you tell me what you put on restriction/important health information?
None.
And now can you tell me what you put on medications?
None, because we didn't know at the time.
Right. Okay, so now can you read the first sentence of the first paragraph?
Yes. I, the undersigned, residing in the city of Alpine City, state of Utah, the parent/legal guardian of the above registrant, a minor, who resides with me, do hereby declare my intent to allow that child to participate in all activities sponsored by the Forensic Tech Camp, including but not limited to classroom sessions, field trips, and recreational activities.
Thank you. So you gave Justin permission to attend all the activities offered by Forensic Tech then, right?
I did, yes.
And if Forensic Tech didn't know about his diabetes, then they wouldn't have been able to plan activities around it, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
Your Honor, this witness has prior experience with diabetes and that knowledge, and I'm not asking specifically if that happened. I'm asking based on his rational perception if that would have happened.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, then. Okay. Is it a possibility that Justin's diabetes could have shown symptoms in the middle of the camp?
I suppose that it could be a possibility.
And even though you had clear contact information for the camp, you still didn't try to contact them until June 26th, right?
I do, and I regret every day of not doing it.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions at this time.
Redirect?
Yes, Your Honor, but may I first confer with my counsel?
Sure.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the case of trial?
I swear.
Can you please state your name and age for the benefit of the court?
I'm Dakota Gardner. I'm Dakota Gardner, and I'm 16 years old.
What's your relationship with Justin Hall?
I'm Justin Hall's best friend.
And how long have you known Justin Hall?
I've known him since elementary school.
What kind of things would you guys do together?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance. I don't see how this pertains to the case today.
Response?
Your Honor, I'm merely laying foundations for the things that will be important in the future.
Overruled.
Well, me and Justin used to play with our mad scientist sets, and I would always play as a sketch artist and to preserve the evidence in our investigator notebooks.
So what made you want to go to Forensic Tech Camp?
Well, Justin told me about it, and we thought that it would be a fun idea to do together before he went off to USST.
So what kind of plans did you two have for the future?
Well, we planned to go to USST together, but he got accepted and I didn't. It wasn't really that much of a surprise.
So you used to take hikes with Justin. Did you notice anything different with Justin at camp on hikes or activities?
Yeah, he took breaks more often, which he usually never does. I mean, I usually take breaks often to use my asthma inhaler, but that was a normal thing to me, so I just let it slip by.
Can you tell us more about the camp?
Well, it was super. It started off great. There were so many things that we could do in different groups, like DNA analysis, ballistics, you name it. Me and Justin immediately knew that we wanted to be in the DNA analysis group.
So where did your group go on Wednesday?
We went on a hike.
And did River tell you anything about the hike?
Well, he said that it was about 15-minute hike and that someone would be there to guide us there.
Was there any kind of pre-hike orientation he gave you?
No, not at all.
Nothing at all?
Nothing.
When did you get to the trailhead?
About 6:15.
And how do you know that?
Well, I had my watch on me.
And what time did River Forest's watch say it was?
He didn't have a watch.
Did he have a cell phone?
Yes, but it was dead.
So how did you know that?
Well, later on, when I told him the time, he seemed really surprised, and he said that his phone was dead, so he wasn't able to check the time.
So how long did you think the hike would take?
15 minutes.
Will you just tell the judge about the hike?
Well, pretty much we went, pretty much by the time we got there, we went right on this unmarked trail. And he said that it was the way to go. So that's where we went.
So on the path you took, that was to the river, right? Did you ever get to the river?
Objection, Your Honor, leading the witness.
Overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did you ever get to that river?
Yes, we did.
When was that?
Around 7 p.m.
How was the waterfall?
Well, we never reached the waterfall.
So what happened to the trail?
Well, it became really steep and really narrow to the point where it just disappeared. I mean, it was pretty much just a deer trail.
So once you found out that you were lost, what did you do?
Well, we kind of just continued on. We couldn't really go back up. It was too steep. Other campers were slipping just to get down it.
Did you try to get out of the river or go back up?
Yes, we did. We tried going up. We tried going up the mountain through bushes and bramble, and we stopped about halfway.
Did you ever try to call 911?
Yes, we did. River took another camper further up the mountain when we had leveled out a place where we could stay put for a while. So River took the camper with a cell phone that still had power in it, went further up, and they managed to call 911.
So while River was doing that, which counselor was left in charge?
There was no counselor.
So you were left to yourselves?
Yep.
All right. So later on, what happened?
Well, after we had built a lean-to and it was dark outside, it was getting rainy. The rocks were wet and slippery after a couple of the girls that had went out to who knows what came back and said that they nearly fell because the rocks were so slippery.
What happened around 3 a.m.?
Well, at 3 a.m., Justin woke me up and said, and was asking questions like, "Where am I? What's going on?" I told him we were at camp, and he seemed really confused. He said that he had to go, and it was still raining out, so I asked him if he could just hold it longer.
Mm-hmm. So after that, did anything happen with Justin?
Yeah, I heard like a splash, a thud, and screaming, and River woke up and said, "What the heck was that?" I told him that it was Justin, and we rushed to go help him.
So what did you do when Justin fell like that?
Well, River gave me some, River told me some detailed instructions on how to move him and how to get him out of the river safely without hurting him.
Did you try to go find help after you moved him?
well, I asked River if I could go back to the van and see if I can go get help, but he said that we should wait until daylight because it was too dark.
What was Justin's condition at that point?
Well, he couldn't move at all. We laid him down on flat ground so that we could stabilize him more.
All right, no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Cross?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
When you arrived at the camp, one of the first things you did was to review your application form, right?
Yes.
To make sure that they were updated and recent, correct?
Yes.
On Monday night at camp, you played Ultimate Frisbee, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
When you were playing Ultimate Frisbee, Justin had to take a break, yes?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Counsel, response?
Your Honor, I'm trying to lay foundation for further questions.
Overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, he did. Yes, he was taking more breaks than usual.
River even asked Justin if he was okay, correct?
Yes.
You had not seen Justin take a break before, had you?
Yes, but again, with me taking breaks multiple times during physical activities, I just didn't really see any point.
But you hadn't seen him personally take a break before, yes?
Yes, that is true.
And even though you had not seen Justin take a break before, you thought nothing of it, yes?
Well, yeah. I mean, I took
Thank you.
breaks all the time.
Justin was drinking a lot of orange juice, enough that you joked about it, right?
Yeah, but he
Thank
said,
you. Although you noticed his large amount of orange juice drinking, you did not infer any farther, did you?
yes.
Thank you. When River informed you all about the hike, you had the choice to go or not, correct?
Yes.
You and Justin both decided to go, right?
Yes.
River suggested that everyone going on the hike should bring water, tennis shoes, a light jacket, a bathing suit, and a towel, correct?
Yes.
River suggested that everyone going, even after River's precautions, you only brought tennis shoes and a bathing suit, right?
Yes, but River thought that we would be okay.
But after his precautions, you only brought those 2 items, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. Later in the hike, when dark clouds began to come in, the campers began to get cold, right?
Yes.
Thank you. River pulled out granola bars for all of you to share, yes?
Yes.
Did you know, you did not know if Justin had a granola bar, correct?
Well, yeah, I didn't really see him eat one.
Thank you. River said that if anyone needed to use the bathroom, that they should use a buddy, right?
Yes, that is correct.
When Justin woke up, he seemed very confused, right?
Yes.
He didn't even seem to know where you guys were or why you were there, correct?
Yes.
In fact, he seemed so confused that you had to explain to him that you had been on a hike and had gotten lost. Right?
Yes.
After that, Justin said camp, as if he had no idea what you meant, right?
Yes.
When you told Justin, can't you wait? He was already walking toward a place to use the bathroom without a buddy, yes?
Yes.
In fact, you were just starting to get up when you heard Justin scream, right?
Yeah.
When you were about to carry Justin, River tried to instruct you on safely carrying him, right?
Yes, but I was scared and shaken. That was kind of hard to understand.
And you were struggling to listen to this important information the River was giving you, right?
Yes, but it was cold.
When you were carrying him, you slipped on the rocks, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
This resulted in Justin almost being dropped. Yes or no, please?
Yes.
In fact, you were worried that you had injured Justin because he screamed, correct?
Yes.
Justin never told you about his diabetes, did he? Did he?
No.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions at this time.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this one trial?
I do.
Please state your name for the benefit of the court.
Dr. Nikki Lopez.
How's the date today? You know, it's been pretty tiring, but that's just the life of a well-known medical doctor.
Objection, Your Honor, relevant.
Sustained.
How did you become did you take an education to become a well-known medical doctor? Well, I've been to Stanford. I went there in 1992, and I got a minor, or a bachelor's of science with a minor in biology. Permission to approach the witness.
Granted.
Thank you. Do you recognize this document? Yes, it's my curriculum vitae. All right. And this has all of your school, all your degrees on it, correct? Yes. I would like to enter Exhibit 6 as evidence.
Objections?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, it's entered.
Thank you. And did you earn any honors or get a higher degree? Yes, actually. I passed as a member through Phi Beta Kappa and graduated summa cum laude. I then went on to Harvard in 1996 and got a master's degree with an emphasis in emergency medicine. And what jobs or careers have you occupied? I've had a lot of experience, actually, but most recently, I am the professor and chair at the Department of Emergency Medicine in the Morgan County Medical Center. So you're a professor and you work in the ER? Yes. And do you have any professional affiliations? Yes, actually. I'm a member of a wilderness medicine interest group, which is also partly why I was allowed to work on Justin. So you worked on Justin, and what can you tell us about the operation? Oh, there's quite a lot. So we didn't know that Justin had diabetes, so when we tested his blood sugar and it was incredibly low, we gave him a dextrose shot, and his blood sugar skyrocketed. All right. And then what did you do? Well, after we gave him the proper stuff, because we saw that he probably had diabetes, we ran tests to see the extent of his injuries. It turns out that he has an incomplete spinal cord injury and or C6. It's basically a broken neck, and he's sustained a serious concussion. He also has type 1 diabetes. Such a poor kid. Is there anything that that you were able to do? Well, we took him into the ICU and we got his vertebrae fused, but it wasn't able to do much. He's quadriplegic now, and he can barely move his hands, if that's worth anything. Did you visit Justin after the treatment?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Response?
I'm just merely asking if he checked to see if Justin was okay and if there were any further injuries.
Overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor. May you please restate the question? Did you visit with Justin after the treatment? I actually did. You know, normally physicians like me don't normally do that, but it reminded me so much of my son and how everything can change in an instant. And what did you find out from these visits? Well, Justin had no recollection of what happened on that day. But it was clear at the creek that he couldn't move his arms. He was talking about that. At least that's a report from my EMTs. And from that, I can deduce that I think that a few more adults and more careful planning would have been incredibly helpful.
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
Sustained.
What sort of life will Justin be able to live after this?
Well, he's quadriplegic. He can't move his arms or legs. And
relevance. It is not necessary in this court trial to determine the extent of the injuries, only that he was injured. That's all we need to know.
Counsel, response?
I am asking if there's any way, what his future is going to be like, and if there's any way to help him in the future, which has to do with the trial and us suing Forensic Tech.
I'm inclined to agree with the defense. Sustained.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Is college a possibility for this kid?
probably not. I mean, he's quadriplegic. He can't move his arms or legs, and therefore he can't study, can't take notes, he can't do any of that. And there's also probably the same reason that he won't ever be employed, because he can't do any of the necessary things.
In your expert medical opinion, in order to make the best life for Justin, what will be needed?
Around-the-clock medical care, medical services, attention, lots of tutors, and everything, and in other words, a lot of money.
All right, and in your expert medical opinion, who would bear the greatest cost of providing that money?
No doubt Forensitech. I mean, they took Justin on this hike. I mean, Forrest should be more,
Objection, Your Honor.
should pay more attention.
In my proper opinion, he's not qualified to testify who should get blamed. He is a physician.
Sustained, and the last remark will be stricken from the record.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Cross?
Yes, Your Honor. You've testified in court previously, correct?
Oh, I'm a medical doctor.
And so, yes, have you testified in court previously?
Absolutely.
And you testified in court 5 times before, haven't you?
I think so.
And you're being paid $18,000 for this trial, aren't you?
Yep.
You gave Justin dextrose initially, right?
Yep.
And you would give insulin to diabetic patients, correct?
Yes.
But you didn't give Justin insulin initially. And you didn't give it to him in Halifax until you gave him dextrose and saw that his blood sugar was still unstable, right?
Well, absolutely. Why would I need
And
to?
learning his blood sugar was still unstable took 45 minutes, didn't it?
Yeah, that's not that long.
So it took you 45 minutes to give Justin Hall proper treatment?
Yes, that's how
Why
blood
didn't you
tests.
give Justin insulin immediately?
Because we didn't know he had diabetes.
Wait, so Justin's treatment was delayed because you didn't know he was diabetic?
Absolutely.
And you had to wait until he was stable to give him a CAT scan, didn't you?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the CAT scan that you knew he had a C6 injury, right?
You can generally tell if someone's has a spinal cord
But it wasn't
injury.
until the CAT scan that you knew he had a C, cervical vertebrae 6 injury, right?
Yeah, I guess.
So you couldn't treat him exactly until he was stabilized.
About the spinal cord injury? Yeah, I
Yes. Do you fault the camp counselor for moving Justin from the river?
You know, in the long
Yes
run,
or no, please? Do you fault him?
I don't believe I can answer yes or no because it has 2 sides to this.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness with his witness statement?
Sure. Show it to opposing counsel. Make sure it's unaltered.
Is this your witness statement?
This is my affidavit.
Is this your signature?
Yes, I believe it is. Actually, I can't read my signature.
Can you please read this sentence? It is in paragraph 17. It is the second sentence.
However, I do not fault the counselor for moving him to the stream bank. Justin could.
So it was the right thing to do, wasn't it?
Yes, I guess it was.
Thank you. I have no further questions at this time.
Okay, redirect.
Yes, Your Honor, but first may I confer with my counsel?
Please do.
Mr. Lopez, when you took Justin into the hospital, what did you know about him?
Not much.
Okay. Did you know about Justin's diabetes?
No, I didn't.
And what would you have done differently if you had known about Justin's diabetes?
I wouldn't have added dextrose to his IV and instead insulin.
Anything else?
I would have given him warm blankets to simulate everything and it would have all gone better.
How long would it have taken Justin to develop hypothermia?
Couple of hours, certainly not minutes.
Would you have advised Justin to be moved?
Your Honor, this is assuming the fact, not in evidence. It's never in his witness statement that it takes an hour, not a few minutes, to catch hypothermia.
Response?
Your Honor, he is an expert medical witness, and he has proper information about this topic through his medical training.
Mr. Leach?
It is not in his witness statement, and it nowhere says in his case materials the time it takes to catch hypothermia.
Sustained.
All right. Would lying in a stream constitute imminent danger of hypothermia?
Only if he was underwater, which he wasn't.
And how long will...
Objection, Your Honor. Again, that's nowhere in his witness statement, and it does say that he was in danger of catching hypothermia.
Counsel?
No response.
Okay, sustained.
How long will Justin be affected by his condition?
Forever. There's really nothing you can do against
Objection, Your
paralyzation.
Honor. Danger of unfair prejudice. This is purely prejudicial.
Overruled.
And could this happen to anyone?
Normally, no. Normally, you take the right procedures to avoid this type of thing.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. No more questions.
Recross?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Would you have been able to tell if Justin had diabetes if he wore his medical tag?
Yes, I would have.
Thank you. I have no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Okay. May this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Witness is excused.
Thank you, Your Honors.
Okay. Defense, would you like a moment to prepare your opening arguments, or are you ready to proceed?
Ready to proceed, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Can I proceed?
Go ahead.
First, Your Honors, thank you for your time. We appreciate the opportunity to now give our client's side of this case and a tragedy, and it is a tragedy, for Justin Hall, his family, and his friends. The challenges he will face in the future are truly heartbreaking, and no one is more heartbroken than these two men who work to provide opportunities for these students. Now, but they have a much different story of the events leading up to this accident. And had they been given the information that Justin or his parents should have disclosed to the camp, I can promise you that none of us would be here today. In tragic times like this, it has become common for a victim and their family to find someone to blame, someone to point a finger at. The plaintiff is pointing their finger at River Forrest and Hayden Thomas, or more generally, Forensic Tech. However, there is an old saying that goes something like this. Whenever you point your finger at someone, there are 3 fingers pointing back at you. Your Honors, my co-counsel and I are here to show the many mistakes that Justin Hall and his family made leading up to this accident. The first finger is that Justin did not wear a medical ID necklace or bracelet. Not only was this hiding his condition, it made it hard for River Forest, as well as the hospital staff to properly treat Justin. The second finger is that Justin refused food or drink on the hike. It was clear to everybody that Justin was tired, but he did not take food or drink, choosing to indirectly cause his hypoglycemia, which caused his fall. Now, the last finger is that Justin refused to tell anybody about his condition. If he had told his best friend Dakota, Dakota could have watched out for Justin and been aware when warning signs occurred. If he had told the camp, they would have been able to provide proper supervision and care when he needed it most. As unfortunate as all of this is, Justin and his family must accept responsibility for their actions and inactions that ultimately began this terrible chain of events. Now think of this case like a movie. Opposing counsel is trying to show you different scenes of the events of this trial, but they're leaving out some crucial information and important scenes that will completely change your view on this case. Now to help you understand our side of the story, we will call 3 key witnesses. First, we will call Hayden Thomas. He will show that the camp was following the NCA standards to the best of their ability and that they knew nothing of Justin's diabetes. Next, we will call River Forrest to the stand. River will testify that Justin was given many opportunities to care for his diabetes. Also, you'll see that River was a very well-trained counselor who took great care of all the campers, especially Justin. When tragedy struck, River was cool in the face of danger and ultimately saved Justin's life. Finally, you'll hear from Justin's endocrinologist, Addison Wheeler. He will show that Justin had not taken the necessary precautions to prevent an accident like this. He will explain that Justin should have been wearing a medical ID and should have informed the camp and his friends of his diabetes. Now please do not get caught up in the emotions of this case. You are here to judge the facts and the evidence. We all feel for Justin and his condition and the challenges he faces in his life ahead. But the rule of law does not allow for someone to blame or someone else to place the burden of responsibility on for one's own actions. The charge that plaintiff is bringing against us is gross negligence. Gross negligence is defined as falling far short of the duty of care and behavior that shocks the conscience. We believe that Justin's own actions were a major cause to his injuries and that Forensic Tech did take those precautions. And to quote U.S. Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, Even a dog knows the difference between being tripped over and being kicked. Your Honors, the burden of proof rests with the plaintiff. They chose to bring this to court. We are here to defend the good names of these men and the company who hired them. If the plaintiffs exceed 50% of the fault, then the defendants are not found liable for any damages, and this case should be dismissed. Thank you, Your Honors, for your time, as we will now present our evidence, which we believe put any questions of liability to rest once and for all.
Thank you. Defense, would you care to?
Please state your name for the court, spelling your last.
My name is Hayden Thomas, Thomas being spelled Thomas.
What is your relation to Forensic Tech Camps?
I am the founder and CEO.
Are you aware of the events that took place in your camp on the night of June 29th?
Sadly, I am aware of this tragedy.
What happened?
Our head counselor, River Forest, took his group on a special hike to a nearby waterfall in the National Forest nearby our camp, and sadly, Justin Hall fell off, resulting in a spinal cord injury.
Why did this happen?
Justin had diabetes, but he did not tell the camp.
Wait, so you didn't know about Justin's diabetes?
We were not aware of any medical conditions or medicine to give Justin Hall.
What would you have done differently if you'd known Justin was diabetic?
Well, first off, he would have been required to join a different nightly activity for that night.
What precautions did you take to ensure the camper's safety?
We have a camp nurse on site at all times. The camp mentors have submit a resume, 2 personal recommendations, and complete a background check.
Does each campus have a camp nurse?
Yes, it does.
What has River done to improve the camp?
River has suggested that we take advantage of the nearby national forest, but that's one of the greater things he's done. On a lower level, he has also suggested that we do activities like capture the flag and ultimate frisbee, and on a greater scale, taking hikes in the national
Objection, Your
forest.
Honor, relevance.
We are laying the foundation for a question that will be asked.
I'll allow it, but get to the point.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So, what specifically did the schedule look like?
The activities varied each night. There was a hike on the night of Wednesday.
So, were the campers able to choose different activities?
Yes, they were.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness with what has been previously moved into evidence as defense exhibit 2?
You may.
Can you please read this line right here? This line is restrictions/important health information.
Restrictions, important health information, none.
Did Justin, in fact, have any restrictions or important health information?
He had diabetes.
Why did you feel you could let River take the campers on that hike?
He had a lifeguard certification and extensive first aid training, and he had always been reliable.
Excluding the fact that Justin was diabetic, did you feel you had what you needed to keep Justin safe?
Excluding that fact, yes.
But without knowing that Justin was diabetic and Justin being diabetic, do you feel you had what you needed to keep Justin safe?
No, we needed to know about his diagnosis.
Did all of the other campers get back safely?
All the other campers got back wet and cold, but safely.
So was the hike safe for everyone else?
Yes, it was.
Thank you, Your Honors. I have no further questions at this time.
Cross?
Yes, Your Honor. You were in ME, right?
I was formerly an ME,
Please
yes.
answer yes or no.
Yes.
Thank you. And you were disciplined for sloppy work on auto
Objection,
expired, weren't you?
Well,
Response?
I'm trying to get a background on this witness's character.
Response?
he does not require a background check. You're asking if his company was responsible for this, and being sloppy is not the same as being grossly negligent.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
Thank you, Your Honor. You quit your job as an ME to host a camp, right?
Correct.
And did you have any training as a camp operator?
No, I did not.
Did you have any degrees relating to camp orientation?
No, I did not, but
And at this camp, you hired River Forest to be head counselor, right?
after a successful
Please answer
2016...
yes or no.
Yes.
Thank you. And you were a bit leery to let him go on a spontaneous outing, correct? Please answer yes or no.
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, may I use Exhibit 2 for my question?
Sure. It's been admitted.
Could you just read the highlighted section here?
Forensic tech camps are accredited by the National Camp Association and uphold industry safety standards.
All right. So, your camp is supposed to be following the NCA standards, right?
Correct.
All right. May I, Your Honor, may I use Exhibit 1, please?
Has it been entered?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. These are the accreditations for your camp, correct?
Correct.
And your camp has advertised itself for having these accreditations, correct?
Correct.
Will you please read me the highlighted section TR1, TR.1?
Does the camp require that emergency transportation is available at all times by A, the camp or rental groups, or B, community emergency services?
Thank you. Did River tell you what emergency transportation he had arranged?
No, he did not.
So he violated this section of the standards.
Yes, he did.
And you allowed this?
Yes, I did.
Will you read the section marked PT.5?
PT.5.
I think it's on the other page.
Oh. PT.5. Trip orientation. All campers and staff required to participate in pre-trip orientation that includes at least specific information on training on how and where to obtain medical and emergency assistance on the trip, emergency contact information for trip participants provided to camp administration, detailed itinerary provided to camp administration and staff leading the outing.
Was there a pre-trip orientation?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Did River file a pre-trip itinerary?
No, he did not.
In fact, you did not know the hike destination at all, did you?
I was told they were going to a
Please
nearby...
answer yes or no.
Yes. Can you actually repeat the question?
Yes, I will. In fact, you did not know the hike destination at all, did you?
I did not know.
Will you read the section marked HW 2.2?
When access to emergency rescue systems or EMS is more than 30 minutes, certified from a nationally recognized provider of training in wilderness first aid and CPR/AED.
A trip more than 30 minutes from camp requires that the guide have both CPR training and wilderness training, correct?
Correct.
Now, the hike was only supposed to take about 15 minutes, isn't that correct?
That is correct.
But you already admitted you didn't know where the hike was going, right?
Correct.
Mr. Thomas, you didn't actually know how far the hike was, did you?
No, I did not.
It could have ended up being a 30-minute hike, and you would have had no idea. Isn't that true?
Correct.
And it did end up being a little longer than 15 minutes, didn't it?
Yes.
Does River Forest have a certification for nationally accredited wilderness first aid training organization?
Yes.
Was there any other adult on the trip with such certification?
No.
Thank you. So your head counselor violated at least 3 sections of your accreditation standards, right?
Right.
Mr. Thomas, did you fire River Forest?
I took reservement on whether to fire him.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevant.
Response?
Your Honor, River Forest is the reason we are here. I believe it is of every relevance.
But how is it relevant that whether Mr. Thomas fired Mr. Forrest, how is that relevant to Mr. Hall's damages or injury?
To show that Hayden Thomas was not responsible, therefore adding to the grossly negligence that he's building up.
Response?
I don't think that you can say he was responsible by not firing him. I think he saw that he was penitent, and therefore he decided not to fire him. It's not saying that he will continue letting students on something, just he does not punish River Forest for something he did not punish.
Response?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm going to sustain the objection.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. So, River Forest didn't tell you where he was going, right?
As I previously stated, no, he did not.
And did River tell you that he was taking another adult?
He said that Jamie Gray was accompanying him on the trip.
So you didn't know where River had gone, and no one else knew, right?
That's correct.
And an hour passed, and after you checked for the group, and they still weren't found.
I'm sorry, can you rephrase the question, please?
Yeah. So an hour after you checked for the group who had not returned, they still weren't found, correct?
Correct.
And around 6:30, you found out that they were found, and a student had been injured, right?
Correct.
And after all this, you still think you weren't grossly negligent?
Correct.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
All right, redirect.
Yes, Your Honor. May I approach the witness with what has been previously moved into evidence as defense exhibit 1?
You may.
Thank you. Can you please read me HW.2.2 under health and wellness?
When access to emergency rescue systems or EMS is more than 30 minutes, certification from a nationally recognized provider in training in wilderness first aid and CPR/AED.
Does any of that say that there needs to be 2 adults?
No, it does not.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions at this time.
Okay, recross.
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Would you please read for me PT 6.2?
PT. Does the camp ensure that 2 adults are present on all trips off-site?
Would you just rephrase for me the previous statement that you've made, that there are supposed to be 2 adults on all off-site adventures?
In what I read off of exhibit...
Please answer yes or no.
Your Honor, my witness is trying to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and this attorney is trying to stop it.
So what's your objection?
Badgering. She's not letting him answer. This is not a yes or no question.
Sustain.
Thank you. Does the camp ensure, sorry, let me rephrase that. Is your camp supposed to ensure that there are 2 adults on all off-site trips?
Yes, and there were 2 adults. One of the campers had turned 18, which is recognized as an adult.
But were they qualified as a leader?
It never specifies that they have to be qualified with certain certifications, so I am in the right.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, may this witness be excused?
Your Honor, we would ask that this witness remains in jurisdiction of the court for the remainder of this trial, but you can step down from this now.
Okay. Plaintiff?
Yes.
Please state your name for the court.
River Forest.
How old are you?
I am 21 years old.
Where do you go to school?
I go to school at Morgan University, and I am a senior there.
Where did you work for the summer of 2016?
I was a biochemistry research assistant, but I took a week off to be...
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance, we are talking about his affiliation with forensic tech and not past jobs.
Response?
Your Honor, we're trying to lay a foundation to show his relation to forensic tech.
Overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Where did you work for the summer of 2017?
I was a biochemistry research assistant, but I took a week off to be a camp counselor at forensic tech.
When did Hayden Thomas ask you to become the head counselor?
He asked me later after the camp if I wanted to be head counselor.
Did you accept the job?
Of course I accepted.
What certifications did you have to have this job?
I have certifications in lifeguarding and CPR, and I had taken a backcountry first aid course at the university.
What other former experience besides being a counselor at the camp did you have?
I had been to the camp myself when I was young.
Can you please describe your experience there?
I loved everything except for the daily nightly activities. They were just really boring.
What type of recreation activities did you do when you were the counselor?
Well,
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance. We are not talking about previous adventures at forensic tech. We should be talking about Justin and his injury in this case.
Response?
Your Honor, we're still trying to lay a foundation to show what type of a counselor River Forest was.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
What was your relation to Justin Hall?
I was his counselor at forensic tech in 2017.
Where did you hear about the hike that you took on the evening of Wednesday, June 28th?
My friend Jamie Gray told me about it.
Were you familiar with this particular hike?
No, but Jamie specifically told me that she would lead the hike herself.
What did you tell the campers about the hike?
I told them that it would be a short 10 to 15 minute hike, and...
What did you tell the campers to bring on this hike?
A water bottle, a swimsuit, a towel, and some good walking shoes.
When did you find out that Jamie Gray bailed on you?
I texted her like 15 minutes before we went on the hike, and she...
Objection, Your Honor. Lack of foundation. He has never mentioned anything about Jamie Gray bailing at the last minute.
Sustained.
Thank you, Your Honor.
What complications did you run into prior to going on to the camp?
Jamie Gray bailed on me.
When did you find out that Jamie Gray bailed on you?
I texted her like 15 minutes before we went on the hike when she still hadn't showed up, and she called me back and responded that she had a cold and she wouldn't be able to make it.
What else did she say?
She told me that the waterfall was hard to miss and the hike was just 10 to 15 minutes.
Did you end up going on the hike?
Because there was another 18-year-old going on the hike with us, I did.
What time did you leave for the hike?
At about 5:30 p.m.
What time did you arrive at the trail clearing?
At about 6 o'clock p.m.
When you reached the fork in the trail, which trail did you decide to take?
The trail closer to the stream.
When you were walking the stream later in the hike, what did you notice about the weather?
The air was super warm.
Did you ever try to check the time on the hike?
Yeah, I pulled out my phone, but it had died.
At what point did you decide to turn around?
When Dakota Gardner came up and told me that it was 7:30.
What terrain did you walk through on your hike back?
We walked back through the stream.
Why?
Because there were like rocky overhangs on like the edges, and it would have been hard to climb out.
Did the students have any food?
No, but a couple of them complained that they were hungry, and so we stopped and I gave them a few granola bars and told those who had water to share.
When did you decide you should climb up the left side of the bank?
When...
Objection, Your Honor. Lack of foundation.
Counsel?
Your Honor, we're just trying to, I mentioned in the question that they climbed up the riverbank, so it's established that they climbed up. Now I'm just asking the time.
Response, Mr. Warren?
No response, Your Honor.
Okay, overruled.
Would you please restate the question?
Yes. At what point did you decide to climb up the bank?
It was getting really cold outside and the sun was starting to go down.
At what point did you decide to make camp?
About halfway up the slope on the side.
What did you try to do to get help?
I hiked up farther with another student with a working cell phone so that we could get a cell signal out to 911.
When you got back to camp, what did you try to do?
I tried to keep everybody's spirits up so that they weren't beating down on themselves.
What was Justin like?
He seemed all confused and just weird like that, and so I tried to offer him some granola bars and water, but he declined.
What rules did you set for your campers?
I told them that if they needed to leave our makeshift lean-to, that they needed to take a buddy.
What happened next?
A couple of girls went out, and they said as they were coming back that they almost slipped because it was super slippery.
At what point did you fall asleep?
After we had started calling out for help.
Objection, Your Honor. Lack of foundation. He never said that he fell asleep.
Sustained.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Did you decide to fall asleep at any point?
Yeah, after we had started calling for help, and it just didn't work out.
What noises did you wake up to next when you woke up?
Well, I woke up to the sounds of screaming and crashing and thuds.
What did you do next?
I asked what it was, and Dakota Gardner responded, telling me that it was Justin.
What was your next course of action?
Well, I went down to find Justin, and after telling everybody to stay put.
What was Justin like when you found him?
Justin was lying in a river, and he had looked like he had bumped his head really hard. Dakota had followed me, disregarding my instructions.
What were your thoughts at that moment?
Well, I remembered my CPR and lifeguarding training, and I realized that we needed to get him out of the river so that he didn't catch hypothermia.
What did you do next?
So I carefully explained to Dakota Gardner how we would lift him out of the river.
What issues did you have in transporting Justin?
Well, Dakota slipped on a rock, and that almost caused me to drop Justin.
When you finished carrying him, where did you put Justin?
We set him down on the side, and I put my blanket on, my jacket on top of him to prevent him from catching hypothermia.
What did you do once Justin was set down?
We just stayed with him and until it got light outside.
What did you do as soon as it got light?
I hiked out with another student to find the police.
Did you ever make it to the trail clearing?
Yes, and the police were there, and I told them what had happened, and that they called an ambulance.
What time did the ambulance come and pick up Justin?
The ambulance had left at about 7 o'clock.
What happened to the rest of the campers?
I took them back to the camp.
Did you know about Justin's diabetes?
I did not, and I was surprised when I learned of it.
What would have you done differently if you knew about his diabetes?
I wouldn't have let Justin go on the hike.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I have no further questions.
Cross?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Mr. Wheeler, is it true that you were, Mr. Forrest, is it true that you were head counselor of forensic tech at June 17th?
Yeah, that's correct.
And one of your campers was Justin Hall?
Yes, that's correct.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance. This has already been laid down in the direct examination.
If it's already been laid down in direct examination, how is it irrelevant?
I withdraw my objection.
Okay. Go ahead and answer.
And is it true that being head counselor came with special privileges?
Yes, one could say that.
Did you work with Hayden Thomas a lot?
Yes.
And is it true that Hayden Thomas trusted you?
Yes.
Even enough that you could plan the evening activities?
Yeah, I did change up some of the evening activities.
Did you plan a special activity for just your group?
Yes, I did.
And that was a hike?
Yeah.
Did you check the weather forecast before your hike?
Not specifically, but I'm wondering, how far before my hike? Hours before my hike, days before my hike, what?
Any amount of time would be fine.
a couple of days before the hike.
All right. May I approach the witness?
Sure.
Would you please read this right here?
Forecasts are always subject to change. Please check back for updates.
All right. Thank you. Oh, and I would like to enter into evidence Exhibit 3 to be arrest.
Any objections?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, it's entered.
All right. And did you check the weather again after checking it the first time?
No.
Even after it said that there would be changes, possibly?
No.
All right. Would you, sorry. And you said that you were unfamiliar with the location that you were hiking, correct?
That is correct. But Jamie Gray had told me that she would lead the hike herself.
Okay. In your affidavit, you said that you didn't tell all of the details to Director Thomas, correct?
Could you rephrase the question, please?
For all the details of your hike, you said in your affidavit that you did not tell all of that to Director Thomas, correct?
Not all of them.
All right. Are you familiar with the term lying by omission?
Could you please state the question? I couldn't quite hear you.
Do you know what lying by omission means?
No.
I'll enlighten you. It's a situation in which someone creates a false impression through not telling all the information you possess. Would you agree that this is what you did in this case?
Objection, Your Honor. Facts not in evidence. This is not in my witness's affidavit or in one of the exhibits.
Response, counsel?
I would say that it actually is. He said that, Mr. Poor said that in his affidavit that he didn't tell the whole truth to Director Thompson. I'm just making sure that that is complete.
Mr. McMullen, do you have a response to that?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, overruled.
Thank you. So you told a lie to someone who trusted you with the safety of youngsters?
I did. I implied on him.
Yes or no questions, please. Answers. But you did say that Jamie Gray was familiar with the hike destination?
Yes, Jamie Gray was familiar.
But when the hike was supposed to start, Jamie wasn't there, was she?
She was not there.
So you were, did Jamie ever show up?
No, she did not.
So you were going to an unfamiliar location with no adult supervision but yourself?
There was another 18-year-old on the hike.
All right. But as head counselor, you're aware that the camp is accredited by the National Camp Association, also known as the NCA, correct?
Correct.
And you, I have here the mandatory standards of the NCA. I wonder if you would be as good as to read for us the highlighted section 5 of the accreditation standards, PT.5.1 and PT.5.3, if I may approach the witness.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
.1. Specific information and training on how and where to obtain medical and emergency assistance on the trip. Detailed itinerary provided to camp administration and staff leading the outing.
Thank you. And is it true that in one of the other standards that there is a standard that says you must file an itinerary for your field trip?
Correct.
And you did not do this, correct?
I did not.
And so even though you were going to be the only adult on the hike, and you still went on the hike?
I was not going to be the only adult. As I previously stated clearly, there was another 18-year-old on the hike.
Okay. All of these are violations of standards, correct?
Would you please rephrase the question? I don't quite understand what you're...
Not taking an adult, not taking another adult with proper training, not having emergency vehicles, and not filing an itinerary are a violation of camp standards, correct?
Correct.
You wanted to go on this hike so badly that you were willing to lie to your boss and commit 3 separate violations of camp and national accrediting standards?
I implied on my boss.
Yes or no answers, please.
Yes.
How long was the hike supposed to take?
According to Jamie Gray, the hike was supposed to be 10 to 15 minutes.
Did you have a watch?
No.
Did you charge your cell phone?
My cell phone had died.
All right. Did you have any way of knowing the time?
Besides other campers, no.
Did you have any way of making emergency contact in the event of trouble?
Besides other campers, no.
And you say that you had lost track of the time and it was already 7:30 when one of the campers said something to you, correct?
Correct.
Did you ever walk back to the van?
No.
And you never made it back to the van, correct?
Not until the next morning.
And it also started to rain that night, also correct?
Correct.
And then you decided you might need to stay the night on the mountainside, right?
There wasn't really another option.
In the rain?
In the rain, yes.
In a lean-to constructed with scavenged.
Objection, Your Honor, relevance. I don't see how this lean-to is relevant to our case.
The lean-to is the shelter that they stayed the night on where Justin might have had a diabetic episode that night.
Mr. McMullen, how is it not relevant?
Because why is a lean-to constructed out of branches relevant to the case?
Mr. Warren, do you have an answer to that question?
No response.
Okay, then I'm inclined to agree with Mr. McMullen. Sustained.
Thank you. Did anyone leave the lean-to?
Yes, a couple of girls did. They said they almost slipped because it was so slippery.
All right. And then with a group of shivering students in a dangerous location, no way to contact anyone, and no other adult, let me quote the affidavit to make sure I get this right. You dozed off.
Objection, Your Honor, compound question.
Overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Would you please restate the question?
You dozed off that night, correct?
Correct.
So you fell asleep.
Dozed off means to fall asleep, I'm assuming. So, as I previously stated, yes.
Thank you. Is it correct that you woke up to a scream?
Yes, I did.
And is it true that Dakota said, "It's Justin, he just fell on the rocks"?
Yes.
And you did make it to the river where Justin was lying, correct?
Yes, and safely moved him out.
And Justin was screaming at the bottom for help and said he couldn't move, yes?
Yes.
You knew that he had a possible spinal injury, did you not?
I knew that.
And you moved him?
Well, he's in a river. He's going to catch hypothermia, which is just going to make his injuries worse. So,
yes or no question?
Of course I moved
Answers, please.
Yes, I moved him.
Thank you. With another student, since you didn't have another adult?
Could you please rephrase the question?
You moved Justin with another student since you did not have another adult, correct?
I previously told everybody to stay put, and so the other student was all I had.
Thank you. And halfway along, did that student slip and drop Justin?
Yes, that student slipped and almost caused me to drop Justin, and he screamed out in pain when that happened.
Okay. And then did you stay with Justin while he lay freezing on a muddy riverbank, unable to move?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance. How is this relevant to our case that he stayed with Justin?
If I may,
Sure.
Your Honor, I say it is completely relevant to our case because we are talking about Justin's injury and what River did to help him.
Overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Could you please restate the question?
Did you stay with Justin on the muddy riverbank?
After putting my coat over him, yes, I did.
Okay. Could you have prevented this Justin's injury by preparing better?
Objection, Your Honor, speculation. This question is making my witness have to speculate.
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
That asking if he could have prepared better for the hike.
Overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor. Is it true that you did not pack adequate food?
I packed adequate food.
Yes
I just
or no?
left it in the
Answers,
van.
please. Is it also true that you didn't pack a cell phone or watch?
Could you please restate the question?
For the hike, did you pack a cell phone or watch?
No.
And you didn't know the location of your hike, correct?
I did know where it started, just not. I was not familiar with the trail.
All right. And you broke camp rules by lying to Hayden Thomas about your hike?
I implied to Hayden Thomas. I didn't directly lie to him.
So in total, you could have prepared better for your hike, yes?
Objection, Your Honor. This is still speculation. My witness didn't know how long the hike was. How was he supposed to prepare? It's speculation.
Sustained.
Okay. And this accident could affect your position of head counselor?
It could affect my position of head counselor, but Hayden Thomas is my boss, so I have absolutely no way of knowing that.
All right. And this was only supposed to be a 15-minute hike, correct?
As I previously stated, Jamie Gray told me that it was only supposed to be 15 minutes. I had no way of knowing otherwise.
Thank you, Your Honor. No more questions.
Thanks. Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. May this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Plaintiff?
Oh, yes.
Okay, witness is excused. Would you care to call your third witness? Defense?
Please state your name for the court.
My name is Dr. Addison Wheeler.
What is your occupation?
I work as a pediatric endocrinologist at the University of Utah Medical Center.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness with what has been previously marked as Exhibit 5?
You may.
Do you recognize this document?
Yes, it is my curriculum vitae.
Can you share with us some of the education experience listed on there?
Yes. I got a bachelor's in science from the University of California in molecular and cell biology, and I got an MD with emphasis in endocrinology from Stanford.
Is this a fair and accurate representation of this document?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit Exhibit 5 into evidence.
Any objections?
No, Your Honor.
It's admitted.
In your work, what type of patients do you usually see?
I see patients with type 1 and type 2 diabetes, particularly type 1 because it is more common in young.
Under what circumstances did Justin come to you?
His family doctor had noticed symptoms indicative of diabetes, such as excessive urination, hunger, thirst, and he found ketones in his urine.
What is diabetes?
Type 1 diabetes is believed to be an autoimmune disorder. It's where the body's own cells attack the cells that make insulin, causing people with type 1 diabetes to produce little or no insulin.
When did Justin come to your clinic?
He came to our clinic from April 18th to 20th.
Was he educated on how to treat his diabetes?
Yes, our diabetes nurse as well as a registered dietitian both met with him to discuss how to best care for his diabetes.
Was he taught the symptoms and signs of hypoglycemia?
Yes, the dietitian discussed that.
Would you please describe the symptoms of hypoglycemia?
Hypoglycemia occurs when a person has too low levels of blood sugar. It will often cause the victim to be uncoordinated, have blurry vision, and confusion.
Did you see Justin after he left the hospital?
Yes, we scheduled up follow-up visits for a few weeks afterward.
Was Justin asked to wear a medical ID?
Yes, on multiple occasions, I encouraged him to get an ID.
Did you encourage Justin to tell his friends and family?
Yes, I did.
To your knowledge, were either of these precautions carried out?
To my knowledge, no.
What did Justin's condition look like on the third visit?
He was keeping good records and good track of his condition, so I decided to wait another 3 months for his next visit.
What happened on that next visit?
We never got to it. The tragedy occurred in between that. I actually heard about it on KSL News.
What would the effect of Justin not wearing an ID be?
The people around him wouldn't be aware of his condition. It could delay medical treatment, as I believe it did, and could also cause people to not understand why they're acting a certain way.
In your expert opinion, what caused the accident?
It is my expert opinion that the
Objection,
accident
Your Honor.
was direct-
Speculation.
Your Honor, this witness has been shown to have expertise in the field of endocrinology and would know about hypoglycemia, which occurred to Justin on the hike, and we believe caused his fall.
But how do those expert credentials give him the opportunity to tell exactly how the accident happened?
I'm not asking exactly how that happened. I'm asking in their expert opinion, and as I previously stated, that's how we believe the accident occurred.
Okay, I'm going to sustain the objection.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did you have a childhood friend with type 1 diabetes?
Yes, I did.
Can you please tell us about that friend?
He's why I'm interested in endocrinology. He was very open about his condition with me, and it helped me.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance. We are talking about Justin's diabetes and not past friends.
Your Honors, this is, as I believe was Mr. Wheeler was getting to, is an example of a person who was open with their diabetes to contrast to the plaintiff who was not open about their diabetes.
I'm going to sustain the objection. It's not
Thank you, Your
relevant.
Honor. Is it important for people with diabetes to tell other people?
Yes, it is extremely important that others around them know about their condition so that they can get proper treatment or that they can recognize their symptoms better.
Would, in Justin's case, what would you think could have happened to if he had worn an ID and told other people?
It wouldn't have delayed the ER treatment. It also probably would have helped people to avoid sending him into things that could cause danger to him.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I have no further questions.
Cross?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Wheeler, is it true that you are a pediatric endocrinologist?
Yes, I'm a pediatric endocrinologist.
And is it also true that you deal with patients who are diagnosed with type 1 and type 2 diabetes?
Yes, that is true.
And is it also true that you treated Justin Hall?
Yes, I am his endocrinologist.
Okay. Did you urge Justin to get a medical alert bracelet?
Will you please repeat the question?
Did you urge Justin to get a medical alert bracelet? Or
Yes, on multiple occasions, I encouraged him to get a medical ID.
Did he get one to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, he did get one, although I do not believe he was actively wearing it.
And you did not force him to wear it?
I have no right to force him to wear his medical ID.
And you have had only 3 appointments with Justin, correct?
Until the accident, yes.
Did you see Justin before the hike?
I did see him before the hike.
And that interaction with Justin was 3 months prior, correct?
Not precisely 3 months, but yes, it was prior to the accident.
And so you don't have any information about his conditions as he went to the camp?
Sorry, could you rephrase the question?
So you have no actual knowledge of his condition at the camp?
I do not know how he is acting at camp.
Did you see him after his accident on the hike?
No, I do not believe so.
So you have no firsthand information about his diabetic condition after the incident?
No, I do not believe I have firsthand information.
So you were not present during the hike, which means that you have no information also about Justin's condition during the hike?
I am an endocrinologist. I study how people interact with how their endocrine system diseases, how they work. So I would be qualified to know how this could happen on a hike.
All right. And you know for a fact that Justin had a diabetic episode on the mountainside when you weren't even there to witness his condition and see him after the hike just from an obtained blood stick?
Will you please rephrase the question?
So you have no knowledge about Justin during the hike and if he had a diabetic episode on the mountainside?
I believe we have confirmed that he had a diabetic episode on the hike.
Okay. And did you obtain a blood stick from the hospital?
I do not believe I saw any of the blood sticks taken from the hospital.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor. We ask that the witness be stepped down, but we ask that they be held under the jurisdiction of the court for the remainder of this trial.
Any objections, plaintiff?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, the witness is excused. Defense, do you have any more witnesses to call?
No, Your Honor. Therefore, the defense rests.
Okay. We'll take a brief recess. I'll call it 7.5 minutes for you to prepare your closing remarks, and then we'll be back.
All rise.
Good evening, Your Honors. Thank you for listening to our case and keeping an open mind to the simple, unbroken rules with the most devastating consequences. You are the wise judges of the court, not us. You sat here, you listened to the testimony of all the witnesses, you saw the evidence and documents. Now you have to look at all that and make a decision. This is a case of gross negligence. There is negligence on the part of the camp and especially the counselor, River Forest. But these are fancy terms that mean something we must never forget. A young man's life is now ruined. Whatever is left of it depends on what you decide today. Our witnesses and the defense witnesses have helped testify that the paralyzation of our witness, of Justin Hall, could have been avoided if simple rules had been followed. Justin was a very mature and responsible young man. No one knows why he didn't tell the camp about his diabetes. But that is besides the point. Jesse tried to tell the camp, and it was the camp's own negligence again that prevented him from doing so. And although they deny it, River Forest is irresponsible and neglectful. Even though they didn't know about Justin's diabetes, they took their group on a hike in unfamiliar trails without another leader when the weather forecast specifically said that there would be a storm that night. And they left their food in the car. The defense suggests that if Forrest had known about the diabetes, they wouldn't have taken Justin on the hike. But they still took a teen with asthma and 8 other kids who had to suffer through hunger, rain, and cold because of Forrest's neglect. Forrest violated camp rules, accrediting standards, and basic common sense. Gross negligence requires that the behavior to shock the conscience. Anyone hearing the loud string of terrible decisions from Forensic Tech's head counselor, their head counselor, would have to wonder if he was trying to shock us. You have heard the testimonies of our witnesses. Jesse Hall, who told us about his son Justin, about Justin's maturity, and that Justin never before had made the mistake of not holding to his promise, about his bright future, his perfect grades, and his emerging career, all of which is gone now. It didn't have to be. All of it would have taken his Forensic Tech following its own simple rules. Dakota Gardner told us about the hike where Justin fell into the river, and how she tried to help Forrest move Justin. But none of it was enough to stop Justin from breaking his neck. Dr. Nikki Lopez told us about Justin being rushed to the hospital where they were working. On the defense, Addison Wheeler has talked about just not wearing his ID necklace, but their only relevance to the trial is unimportant because of Jesse Hall, who told us about their responsible, mature son decision to not wear the necklace and how they are aggravated by that choice. Hayden Thomas let River Forest on a hike with their group without knowing where they were going, a violation of camp's rules and standards for accreditation for the camp. More than that, Your Honors, it is a violation of basic common sense. No trip plan, no itinerary, no phone. That's not just negligent, that's grossly negligent. Thanks to Jesse Hall, we know that River violated 4 of the NCAA standards that were required to follow because of Jesse's wonderful and insightful knowledge of these standards. Under program, trip, and travel standards, are all campers and staff required to participate in pre-trip orientation, and that includes at least specific information on training on how and where to obtain medical and emergency assistance on the trip. Emergency contact information for trip participants provided to the camp administration, and detailed itinerary provided to the camp administration and staff leading the outing. And then under trip logistics, does the camp ensure that 2 adults are present on all trips off-site? These are the questions asked of the camp. And if these questions are answered with a yes, then they are accredited with the NCAA standards. Forensic Tech camp should have had these questions unanswerable with a yes. But because of River Forest, these rules have been broken. Truly, Your Honor, the simplest rules are the ones with the most devastating consequences when ignored. What Jesse Hall truly wants is impossible. He wants Justin to be able to move again and to be able to have a successful career he wanted. That life is gone. This doesn't mean there will be no life left, but the quality of that life depends on one thing: money. To bring even the basics of a livable life from what is left, Justin is going to need expensive, ongoing care. The brilliant mind is still in him, just trapped by Forensic Tech, by River Forest and Hayden Thomas. That person has a key, Your Honors, and you hold it. Jesse and Justin just want River, Forrest, and the camp to pay so Justin can have the best treatment. Fortunately, this isn't simple, Your Honors. The facts are on their side. We beg of you, please cast your lot against the defense. Cast your lot against the people who break the simplest rules with no thought to the devastating consequences that will follow. Thank you, Your Honors.
Thank you. Defense?
Yes, Your Honor. Justin Hall's accident was truly a tragedy. Nobody here is arguing that fact. And yes, this was totally preventable, but not in the way the plaintiff would have you believe. Justin Hall and his parent both neglected their duty to disclose Justin's serious medical condition to my client, which ultimately was a cause of Justin's injuries the night of June 29th, 2017. Although Justin's diagnosis came after the waiver was sent, Justin still had a full 2 months before he went to Forensic Tech. For those 2 months, Jesse and Justin didn't even realize that they had failed to tell the camp about his diabetes until June 25th. Don't you think that would be important for the camp to know? When Justin arrived at Forensic Tech, the very first thing the camp had him do was review the waivers, but Justin neglected that clear opportunity. Even his dad only attempted to contact the camp once. So because our client did not know about Justin's medical condition, they were unable to provide care for Justin. Now, Your Honors, the burden of proof rests with the plaintiff to prove our client, Forensic Tech Inc., guilty of gross negligence. The definition of this is that, quote, the party didn't just act irresponsibly, but grossly irresponsibly, falling far short of the duty of care. Gross negligence goes beyond carelessness to include reckless, unreasonable, or willful misconduct by a person. It is behavior that shocks the conscience. In these cases, the plaintiff must prove a lack of care that demonstrates reckless disregard for the safety and lives of others, close quote. Now I ask you, Your Honors, did Forrest demonstrate reckless disregard for the safety and lives of others? He offered everybody food and water and tried to get them out of the situation as soon as he realized that they'd been hiking for a while. And when the rain started pouring, instead of just letting the group sit stranded, he had students successfully contact emergency services. He even specifically offered Justin food and water when he saw that he was tired and even confused. Justin refused it, however, even though he had been previously taught by a registered dietitian the importance of maintaining his blood sugar level. Forrest provided clear instructions, but Justin went outside against those instructions. Justin woke up with the obvious signs of hypoglycemia, but because he hadn't told Gardner about his serious medical condition, Gardner wasn't able to help Justin. And then we all know what happened. Justin, waking up in a near-diabetic coma, stumbled outside. Obviously dazed and confused, he was in no state of mind to make rational decisions, which of course was the cause of his subsequent fall. After he fell, Forrest recognized the more immediate threat of Hall's suffering from hypothermia, so as effectively as was possible, he gave Gardner instruction on how to move Justin. Dr. Wheeler and even Dr. Lopez agreed that in that situation, moving Justin was the right thing to do. Can we expect our client to maintain their duty of care over Justin Hall when they were completely ignorant to Justin's serious medical condition? Forrest admits himself that had he known about Justin's diabetes, he would not have allowed him to go on the hike that day. But because Justin and Jesse neglected their duty to inform the camp, Justin suffered this injury. The plaintiff has pointed the finger of blame at our client, but the three fingers pointing back at him have truly dismantled the plaintiff's arguments. Your Honors, at this time, the defense asks that our client be found not liable for Justin Hall's injuries. The plaintiff failed to meet the burden of proof required by law for gross negligence. Hall's unknown diabetic condition, rather, is to blame, and Forrest did everything in his power to prevent this tragic accident from happening. Thank you, Your Honors, for your time.
All right, thank you. We'll take a brief recess, probably around 2 minutes, to tally our final scores and write a few things down. And then we'll be back with some decisions and some points and some advice.
All rise.
Please be seated. All right, in the case of Hall v. Forensitech, on the claim of gross negligence, we find in favor of the plaintiff. There's a pretty good reason for that. That is, we find that River Forest's behavior and activities and Hayden Thomas's lack of experience and then ability to just go along with whatever River wanted to do, it shocks our conscience. As a father myself, I can say that if my kid were at this camp, I would probably, if I were allowed to, I would probably throw River and Hayden in jail. But this is not a criminal case. This is a civil case. So very well spent money, plaintiff's side and defense. You're going to have to pay somebody out. In addition to paying your attorney's hefty fee. Mr. Thomas, I'm guessing the bill's going to come around $4 million for each of those, so
I'll put it on.
fork it out.
I'm taking it off of his page.
All right, so that's our decision on the merits. We'll start with Ms. Perkins here, and she's going to give some information. She's going to give you her scores and her best attorneys and witnesses, and then we'll have Mr. Andrus, and then I'll finish it up.
Good job, everyone. First off, you guys can all take a deep breath and relax a little bit now. It's all over. So I'm Sarah Perkins, and I'm a second-year law student up at the University of Utah. Yeah. So I have a score of 109 to 103 for the plaintiffs. And my best plaintiff attorney, I couldn't decide between Emily and Max, so I wrote you both down.
Okay, sounds good.
And then my best plaintiff witness, I did Calvin Price. I thought that you had a lot of material to memorize and kind of understand and then present, and you did a really good job with it. For my defense attorney, I have Graydon McMullen. Thought that you did really well. And my best witness was Jackson, and is it Lauritsen? Lauritsen. Okay, yeah, so for my best defense witness. Going through some feedback, I'll start with the plaintiffs. And I really liked your opening. I thought that you did a good job with that and that you had enough of it memorized that you were able to make good eye contact and kind of lay everything out and present it confidently in the way that made sense with everything else that you guys did throughout the trial. And Emily, on both of your direct examinations, I thought were really good. You were able to get a lot of useful information out of your witnesses and had a clear line of questioning that was pretty easy to follow. You had some good responses to the objections that the defense counsel was making. And you kind of allowed both of your witnesses to tell their own story with the questions that you were using, and I really appreciated that, and that you weren't just saying, and then what, but you had formulated questions that you were kind of steering them along with. It was really good.
Thanks.
I'll just stick with you. So on your cross, I thought that you missed a few objections and that there were some responses that you could have maybe built up a little bit more. So just, I know it's hard to formulate a response on the fly when they're objecting to things, but if you can kind of go through what your witnesses are going to say and maybe try and think of all of the objections that they could come up with, then it can help you kind of be able to pivot and come up with that response quickly. And I thought that your tone was good, and this kind of goes across the board. Sometimes on cross, it's totally fine to let the witness just keep talking. It doesn't always have to be just that yes, no, correct, right, and like cutting them off by saying like thank you or ending it. Sometimes it's totally fine to have them just kind of keep talking, because sometimes it hurts them and sometimes it just really doesn't hurt or help them, but it's less aggressive if you can just let them kind of get out what they're saying. And I thought that Max, you did an awesome job. Both of your crosses were wonderful.
Thank you.
I thought they were amazing. Yeah, so I guess I'll go to you. On some of the objections that the defense made, I thought you had really good responses to them. And keep fighting on those responses.
Okay.
If you come up with a response and then they say something else and we turn back to you to give another response, just maybe rephrase the response you used the first time, or if they address something different, try and come up with a new response for that. But I think you could have kept fighting on a few of the objections and maybe got them to go your way.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, really, your crosses were my favorite part of the whole thing. I think that on your direct, if that's the first thing that you're doing in the trial, maybe take a second and kind of slow down. And it's fine if you get up there and you just take a second and kind of orient yourself and let your witness get settled in and then start going, because you seemed a little bit nervous at the beginning of your direct, but you were able to come back and be really confident towards the end of it. But yeah, just take your time. It's totally good. With our witnesses, so Mr. Hall, I thought that you had a really good demeanor for the character that you were playing as a witness. You kind of had the right attitude and tone for the father of the boy that is now a paraplegic that we're having this case about. I thought that you were able to get some good information out on your direct, and that you handled cross well. And I really liked that you had a consistent kind of demeanor and responses throughout your direct and your cross. It just makes it a little bit more believable when you aren't one way with your side and then completely a different person when the other person is talking to you. So that was really good. With Dakota Gardner, I also thought you had a good demeanor since you were playing a 16-year-old witness. I thought that was great.
Thank you.
And I thought that you were able to get out the fact about you having asthma, and that was helpful because they were able to use that then throughout the rest of the case. Dr. Lopez, you had a lot of information and you knew it really well. So that was impressive. I think that you could slow down a little bit when you're talking. I know that it's nerve-wracking, but if you can just kind of take that deep breath and just slow down with your information. It's great information, but it just comes out really quick, so it's hard to follow sometimes. And then both sides, neither of you designated your doctors as experts in their fields so that they could testify with expert opinions. So, just something to remember. Is that something that they still have to do?
No.
Or did one of them do it? You guys did it?
They don't have to do it, and Mr. Price said it even though the statement was stricken from the record.
Oh, okay. So, confusion about that. Sorry. Okay, well, yeah, that's pretty much what I have for plaintiffs. But yeah, so defense. Let's look at your guys' stuff. Sorry, I took a ton of notes, so I'm just trying to read through them really quick. I also thought that your opening statement was really good and that you kind of laid out a good outline for it. I like that you used an analogy. I think maybe the second analogy was a little bit lost in it, but the first one was really, really good. And then who did this first? Oh, you're good. Okay. On your direct, I thought that you had a good line of questioning and your tone on your direct was good. I liked that you used the exhibits with the witnesses and kind of got them looking at them and identifying them using the information from them. I also thought you missed an objection, but not a huge deal. For Hayden Thomas, I thought your demeanor was really good and you also were able to give some good information on your direct. You handled the cross all right. But you guys definitely needed to take the opportunity to redirect, especially Hayden Thomas and River Forest, because that's where it killed you. When your witness kind of on cross gives up so much information that goes against your side, you really have to use redirect to just get up there and hit a few key points that kind of rehabilitate your witness, and then just get in and get out with your redirect. And so I was really upset, a little sad when you guys didn't do that, because it could have helped you guys so much. Yeah, I thought that Graydon, you did a really good job on your line of questioning and your tone on your direct. I thought you were able to really develop a conversation with your witness, which I thought was really good, and that's one reason why I gave you Best Defense Attorney. But you've got to watch your objections. Especially, there was one time where you objected and the witness was about to answer a question that would have helped you. And I was like, oh no, he's objecting to that. And you have to redirect your witness. Have to. And River, I thought that you had a good tone and you had the information, but maybe slow down with your responses on direct, and kind of change your speed of responses and like the tone of your voice when he's getting to different questions. Especially when it, like, you're talking about kind of background things and then you get into the accident and you kind of just answered everything kind of straight across the board the exact same way. And so I think you could have made more impact with some of that stuff. But I thought you handled cross okay too, because it was a really good cross. Mr. Penrod, you did the next one. So I thought that you had a good tone and good questions on your direct. And you had some good responses to their objections, which was nice. Yeah, the other stuff was about designating an excerpt, but I guess you guys don't do that. And Dr. Mueller, I thought you had a good knowledge of the information and good tone. I liked that you were making so much eye contact with us since we're the fact finders in the case. I thought that was really good. But there was one time where I think you needed to be a little bit more careful with only answering the question that they were actually asking you, because you gave up a little bit of information that hurt you guys that you didn't necessarily need to. So yeah. And I know that these guys will probably talk about this a little bit more, but on all of your guys' cross-examinations, they come off as aggressive. And so maybe back that down just a little bit. You can still be direct and assertive, but there's a point where you cross that line and it kind of becomes just too aggressive. And so I think just working with that and knowing how to pull it back just a little bit so that it still is effective, but it just doesn't have that tone would be helpful. Yeah, and I think slowing down and not cutting off every witness, like sometimes it's okay if they talk. It's not the worst thing. And I thought that Max did a good job with that, where you have to just kind of give them a little bit of room to work with. And some questions you really don't want them to, so kind of phrase those questions differently or make sure that they have shorter answers to some questions. But it doesn't have to be so choppy the whole way through your cross. And also, take into consideration which witness you're crossing, because when you're crossing the dad of the boy who's now paralyzed or a 16-year-old kid who's the friend of them, maybe take that into consideration and it could help with your tone of how you're approaching the cross-examination. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much all I had, but good job. This is impressive that you guys are all able to do this, and I probably could not have done this when I was your guys' age, so yeah, good job, everyone.
Thanks.
It's a lot of good feedback. I think it's important to recognize that you guys have worked hard to get here, and so all of you have done a very good job. One thing that I don't like about competitions, per se, is that it almost seems to infer some degree of finality, that this is it, but really it's a beginning. And so even though there will be a winner, per se, I think that you've worked hard and keep working. Keep going forward. This is something you really, really like to do. Keep doing it. Regardless, this is something that's important for you to be able to understand about our society, about what's happening to trials. And in fact, trials in America are disappearing right and left. The federal judiciary has mentioned that there's less than 1% of all cases that ever make it to trial. And so it's going to be up to your generation as well to preserve the trial. Otherwise, it will be gone. in a few years, in the next generation. Will we still have one? It's up to your generation. In terms of, I think the plaintiffs did meet their burden. I think there's a few reasons that they did. In terms of best plaintiff's attorney, I selected Emily Cannon. I thought you did an excellent job.
Thanks.
And I think in your opening statement, you did a great job setting forth the standard that we needed to understand, and then walking through and saying why this particular case was not just negligent, but grossly negligent, and what those factors or elements were that we needed to see. That's really the formula always in court, is what's the standard that the judge needs to know, and then what are the elements to get you there, and then close it out. So say enough, and if you've said it and you get your evidence up there, get out. And so I noticed that on a couple of arguments and crosses that if you would have, if certain attorneys would have just ended a little shorter, you would have knocked it out of the park. But because you keep going, it's almost like you start digging down a little bit further. So be careful about that. Human nature, I think that we say, oh, we've got time, we better use it. But sometimes it's, nope, let's just give that back to the court. We did our job, let's get out. In terms of best plaintiff witness, I said James Finlinson. I thought you did a good job with your demeanor, with your character, and kind of brought it to life. With that said, I think everybody did a good job. Max, I think you worked really, really hard. I think you were a little bit nervous at the beginning, but by the end, you were just on a roll. So you did very well. With the defense, I think you've got some great talent, all of you. And I think that the one feedback that I'd have is on cross, you did a very good job. Just watch your tone a little bit and make sure that you let the witness answer and let that answer go to the judge, and then kind of emphasize what it is on your element that you're trying to hit. That's perhaps negligent, but not grossly negligent. Bring it back to what it is that you're trying to prove. But absolutely, you guys you did a great job putting on evidence and doing cross-examination. In terms of best defense attorney, I selected Luke, and I thought you did a very good job, and I thought your closing was excellent. So I think that you also were getting there and putting those important facts from the evidence, plus you were using case law. That's something I recognize. This is my third time being a judge in this particular competition, and few teams are really leveraging the case law. So leverage the case law in your opening statement and in your closing statement. That can go a long way. It's the little things eventually that win the competition. It's going to be how you use the case law, how you use those elements, and just making sure that it's clear and then getting out. In terms of best defense witness, I selected Ryan Giger. I think you did give up a few things, but I don't think that was all you. I think you should have been redirected on certain things. So I thought you did a good job with knowledge of the facts, and it's a hard case, and that's really what happens. You're never going to get to a trial with perfect plaintiffs or perfect defendants. There are always going to be bad facts that come out. It's just how you leverage it and how you tone it down and scale it down to be able to say, yeah, you're right, that's a bad fact. And that's actually one thing that, Emily, I thought you did a great job. Here are the bad facts. Yeah, this is bad. But here's why it doesn't matter as much as it should. So excellent job to all of you.
All right, my name is Spencer Duchesne. I work for the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources. I'm an attorney, but most of the time I'm not wearing a suit and tie. Most of the time I'm wearing hiking boots, denim, and flannel, and it is awesome. So if you'll indulge me for a second, my ballot's already cast and my pen's up here, and so nobody needs to fear any repercussions from me. I'd like you to stand up, and this includes like the audience too. I'd like you to stand up if you thought that the presiding judge made some bad calls on objections today. Okay, so it's quasi-established, right? If anything, I said I made some bad objections. Is anybody in here a Jazz fan? Anybody watch the Jazz game on Monday night and see that foul in the fourth quarter where Donovan Mitchell didn't foul that guy? I was there at that game, by the way. And you know what happened? Quinn Snyder got up off the bench and started yelling at the refs and telling them that it was a bad call and expressed his disgust. Did you notice what Donovan Mitchell did?
Pulled him back.
He had to pull his coach back. What did Donovan Mitchell's face? Did he argue with the ref? No, he didn't argue with the ref. Did he show he was disappointed in the ref? No, he didn't do that. Quinn Snyder showed that he was disappointed with the ref. And the fans, we really showed that we were disappointed with the ref. And so that's the way it ought to be in mock trial. If the judge, the presiding judge, makes a bad call on an objection, don't show any emotion if you're the attorneys. Let it go. Let your coach be mad for you and make that sourpuss face. And let your parents and others who've come to see you just really excel in this competition think, oh, that was a bad call. I'm glad that he's not my judge. So that's my advice on objections. The other thing on objections is be prepared. If you're going to make an objection, be prepared to tell me what the standard for the objection is. There was a couple of times where the objection was relevance. Some won, some lost. Now, I will say that on relevance, I think that I did a great job on relevance. But what I was asking for from the attorneys is to tell me what a relevance objection means. And a relevance objection is if evidence that's going to be presented is not relevant, it has no, it is not more or less likely to make any material fact in the case true or not true. And so I want you to tell me how the answer to that question might meet that standard when you object on relevance. Be prepared to answer that. Sometimes I just had to say, yes, that's not relevant. Sometimes I had to say, no, that might be relevant. And you couldn't tell me one way or the other. And if you could, then maybe I see it your way. In undergrad, I majored in literature and I minored in linguistics. And so I am a terrible word nerd. And they've mentioned stuff about your cross-examination, and I'll echo those comments, that cross-examinations need to be tightened up. If your witness on cross-examination starts to wander, don't cut the witness off and tell the witness, yes or no only, please, or thank you, because there's a couple of things that it does. One, it makes the fact finders look at you in a certain light that's not positive to you. And regardless of whether the fact finders are supposed to look at only the evidence, that's gonna paint a picture for them, and it's gonna taint their judgment. Second thing, it makes the witness a little bit more aggressive and hostile. And now the witness doesn't want to give you the answers that you're supposed to give. If you're nice to the witness on cross, even though you might be asking hard questions, the witness is going to be more or less cooperative. So don't do that. And then the third thing that it does is it makes the judge not want to be on your side. Now, we were both the finders of fact and the judge, but that would be true also if you had a jury and judges. So the way to avoid questions that allow your witness to ramble is to channel your inner word nerd and look for one fact in each of your questions. And the way to do that is go back and look at your cross-examination questions and extract all the verbs from your cross-examination questions and extract all the nouns from your cross-examination questions and write one question for each of the verbs and one question for each of the nouns. And then that way, there's no way that the witness can answer yes or anything other than yes or no. For example, if I hold up my pen and I said, this pen writes in red ink, true? Then somebody can't say, well, yes, but sometimes it writes in blue ink, because that's not true, right? They have to answer truthfully while they're on the stand. And so that's the advantage of doing that. And you're not asking any more words because you're just taking out you're taking out your verbs and your nouns. By jamming them all into one another, what it does is it not only lets the witness ramble, but it also lets the witness give a response that might not be the response that you want, even with a yes or no. If you include multiple facts that the witness doesn't agree with, then the witness can say, nope, that's not true. Even though 5 of the facts that you include in your question might be true, if the one is not true, they can say, no, that's not true. So one fact, one question. Channel your inner word nerd. Don't get frustrated when your witness starts to wander. Think about it. Formulate a better question. And then let's see. Oh, let me say who won and who did what. So on the plaintiff side, I had points coming out at 111, and on defense, 105. For best plaintiff attorney, I chose both of you. Normally we see 3 or 4 attorneys in this competition. We understand that you have some unique circumstances. And the level of preparation that the 2 of you showed, where you carried the burden for your teammates who aren't with you today, is just astounding, and it's something to be applauded. And then for the best witness, I chose Mr. Price. Best defense attorney, I chose Mr. Leach, because your objections were pretty solid. It shows that you were thinking about it. When I asked for responses, you thought and gave me a thoughtful, formulated response. And for best defense witness, Mr. Lauritsen. I have my notes here. Everything in blue is things that I liked. Everything in red are things that I would recommend that you do better on next time. And then if you have questions about it, you can, what is it they say, cash me outside? But that's all I've got. We should give these kids a round of applause. What do you think? All right, court's adjourned.